Um, Exciting here. This is the session where you learn how to make money. Okay, and I'm going to just start by a couple things. Just reiterating. Take these notes. They're from Casey. Don't burn bridges. Right. Don't ruin your brand. Network, network, network. And then here's a little secret on the booklet that you were all sent with all of our backgrounds on it. There is a little thing called LinkedIn. And that is a live link that you can click on and link in with everybody. And I would recommend linking in with everybody because that's part of what? Network, network, network. So, okay, we'll start out. Let me tell you who I am, and then we're going to go around the panel a little bit. Ron Frederick, been in the business way too long, 35, 40 years, old white guy. So sorry about that, but we do have a lot of fun on this side of the business. So I'm a proud graduate of Eastern Michigan University, way back when it was the Hurons, now the Eagles. Regional director at Focus Media, and Focus Media is a rep firm, and this is where we represent properties who don't have an office here in Detroit, things like Green Builder Media, Pocket Outdoor, Yoga Journal, Backpacker, Ski. We do print, digital, events, and tech. But before we go around the room, I just want to shout out a huge thank you to Verizon Media for sponsoring, again, media sales, right? Sponsoring our event today. So thanks, Verizon Media. And let's start with Alyse. Tell us a little bit about, I know that you started with young professionals, with Adcraft. You were on Kara. You were at Kara on Cadillac because I called on you, right? So tell us a little bit about your background, and then we'll move on to Alyse.
All right, sounds good. Hi, everyone. My name is Alyse Polzien. I am a proud Spartan graduate. I graduated 2011 undergrad and then 2013 from graduate school. After that, I started at Kara, as Ron mentioned. Again, with the burning bridges, this is why you don't burn bridges, because everybody is very connected in this industry. So I was there about 5 years, worked on digital buying, planning, different accounts in the GM portfolio, and I have been at Viacom CBS for almost 3 years now.
Wow, that's great. Alyse, you're on mute. There you go.
I'm on mute. Now I'm unmuted, I believe. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Alyse Stemm, Director of Sales at Effectv, which is the advertising arm of Comcast. I also am an Eastern Michigan University graduate. I majored in business marketing. I did want to go over a little bit of my internship in college just because I felt like that's how I landed where I landed today. It was with Campus Special, which was a coupon book company. So they picked 2 interns from each university across the country to sell coupon books. And we all flew down to Atlanta, Georgia, got trained, and then the job was for me to go to 30 businesses a day and sell coupons. I bring that up just because that was a grind, but I also learned so much in that internship, which got me the job that I have today at Comcast/Effectv in advertising sales.
That's great, Alyse. Next up is Ron Bowe, who, by the way, has a storied past of being our 107th president of Adcraft. So thanks, Ron. And you don't get to president without doing a whole lot before that, mostly with Adcraft. He started at, I want to say, Campbell Ewald, I think, where I first met you, Ron. And then you were at Time Inc., working on People, Gas Station TV. Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. I'm a transplant to Detroit, one of the few. Not many people realize that. I went to the University of Illinois, graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Advertising. My internships, it's going back a ways. Internships were not as important when Ron and I were getting into the business because I was a lifeguard for about 6 years. So I'm not sure you'd be able to break into the highly competitive world of media sales these days with that kind of a background. But I actually started at Ross Roy, which used to be an agency in town here, and then Campbell Ewald, spent 10 years at Time Inc. I ran the Wall Street Journal office here in town. Then I moved on to purely digital life, working at KBB and Auto Trader, and then GSTV, as Ron mentioned. I think I'm going to reiterate. I was on the board of directors for about 10 years, the 107th president of the Adcraft Club, but all of the time leading up to that, I took very seriously the idea of networking and spending time getting to know people in the business, people in other companies. One, I did think eventually it would pay off, but second, so many great people, and it was so much fun, and that was the most rewarding part of it, to be honest. So, did I hit all of your points, Ron?
Ron, you did good. Next up, Brian, who is another Viacom CBS VP and General Manager. And I might add to everybody that's watching, everybody here is volunteering. And we got some high-level people here today, so much appreciated. Brian, thank you for sure. I know you might be a transplant as well, so give us your background.
Sure, yeah, I am. I've been in Detroit now for coming up on 9 years. I'm from the South. I graduated from the University of Tennessee. I originally went there to study architecture, but I figured out after about a year doing that, it was just too independent, too solo of a career path. I wanted to, my roommate at the time was in advertising, and he was, you know, out doing group projects at bars and restaurants and stuff like that. And I said, I got to get into that game. So I switched over to advertising, joined our advertising club in college. From there, starting like in our junior and senior year, we would travel to various advertising centers like Charlotte and Atlanta, where I got to meet with people in the advertising business, whether it was newspapers or ad agencies. After graduating college, I moved to Atlanta, started applying for jobs, got on with a great agency in Atlanta, and I felt like the reason why, you know, I felt like I was probably one of the few choices for a job opening, and I felt like what tipped the scale was the connections that I had made while I was in college at in our advertising club. There was a University of Tennessee graduate that worked at that agency that I think that ultimately took the scale and got me in the door of an ad agency. From there, I discovered broadcast television sales. So I was at an agency for about a year. Again, through making connections and reaching out and staying in touch with people, somebody reached out to me about a job opening on the television side of the business. And then, you know, here we are 30 some odd years later, and I run our duopoly stations here in Detroit. So. And
those stations are WWJ-TV and CW50 WKBD, correct?
Correct.
All right, Brian, that's great. Good stuff. And last but not least is our sponsor today, Emily Miner. Thanks, Emily. I know that your boss is out having a good time somewhere up north, but we appreciate you sitting in. And Emily, I don't know how you do this with 4 kids. So maybe you can weave that into your background and how you got
here. Oh yeah, well, it's kind of next level these days, you know, with everybody at home. Yes. But yeah, we can talk about that, sure. Hi guys, I'm Emily Miner. I'm an account director at Verizon Media. So I do digital advertising sales. I went to Hillsdale College. I graduated way back in the early days of, I think it was 2003, a long time ago. And I actually went to school, I thought I was going to be a dentist, and here I am in ad sales. So just goes to show things change at the drop of a hat. You know, I grew up, my mom she owned her own small business. She was in medical sales. So I guess I was kind of groomed from a young age to be in sales. I graduated from college. I met some great people who were in advertising who actually helped and connected me to, I got a job in the tier 2 planning business at PhD for Chrysler back in the day. And I learned how to plan all different things, TV and newspaper and a little bit of digital back then because it was just starting. And it was really the connections that I had that allowed me to get my foot in the door. Internships, again, weren't a huge thing when I was in college. It was really just getting work experience. So I was able to get my foot in the door. Kirk Smith hired me. So thanks, Kirk Smith. He got me in here. And from there, I spent time learning, moved around at the agency, and then decided to make the jump into the sales side. I started as an account manager and got some experience there. So I had some agency experience, I got some account management experience, and then I moved into sales, which kind of makes me a unique salesperson because I kind of understand the back end of it. So that's kind of how I got here, and that's my story. So, and now I work from home with 4 children. Everything's fine. Yeah.
I know this has really been a challenge, I think, for everybody. So, all right, let's talk about since connections and networking are so important. Let's talk about maybe, and I'm just going to throw this out. So whoever wants to jump in first, Ken, how did you go about initially establishing connections? And I mean, it's one of those things where you want to work a room, or you want to meet some people. Maybe it's the person in the office next to you, or maybe you're not even in the business yet. So how do you do it besides LinkedIn? What do you think, Ron? You want to jump on that?
Sure. And by the way, I think that is to a great extent it's a different and something you have to kind of push yourself outside of your comfort level. But there are those who are now in sales. It comes very easily to walk into a room of people you don't know.
Did Ron freeze up? All right.
Am I back?
You froze up there. You're back. Yep.
Okay. But you have to put yourself out there, and going to industry events and then carrying on. I can't tell you how many people I have met that way who have come up to me, and then I have been able to help them in their career because they have come to me. They introduce themselves, they become known, and then I introduce them to somebody like Ron or Brian or whomever, and then those connections just to go out, because there are a lot of us, I would say, in the business who want to be able to help each other, but you've got to take the first step and go outside of your comfort level. Don't go to an event with 10 friends and just talk to all 10 of those friends. Come to the Adcraft events. Go to your marketing events within your schools, and say hello to the speakers that you guys bring in, and connect with them on LinkedIn, and keep them updated as to how your career is going, or how your classwork is going, and where you're going next, and where you're interviewing next. And I'll tell you what, if you ask for help, you ask somebody for help, I would say conservatively, 80% of those people will help. I'd like to say 100. A lot of times our schedules are crazy and we get busy, but that's my suggestion.
Allie, what about you? Yeah, definitely kind of adding on to what Ron said, go to events. Obviously now that's a little bit challenging, but even if it's a virtual event, be sure to still make connections. Even through work experience. I was very fortunate when I started being on the planning buying team. So I was making connections with different companies that we were working with, different salespeople. So those people, when I was looking to explore new opportunities outside the agency, those are some of the first people that I reached out to, were the salespeople that I worked with the past, 5 years on all of those accounts. So being able to speak to, character and all those other things. So very important to actually meet people, have people know who you are, be known. And Allie, as being on the co-chair of the Young Professionals, right? And now everyone watching is a member of Adcraft now, so, and probably should be in the Young Professionals, right, Allie? And they do a ton of events with each other. And I can't remember who said it, maybe it was Casey, but as we grow up in the business, the people that Ron and I know now are running the business, right? Yeah. Where in fact, they may have been a planner, Emily, right? At the very beginning of the whole thing. So, Alyse,
tell us a little bit about how you got started with your networking program.
Yeah, so early on, I tried to be in as many organizations as possible. So Adcraft since the beginning of my career 12 years ago. Some other ones were Women in Cable, Small Business Association of Michigan, American Marketing Association. Through all of these, like everyone else has said, the connections have been the most important part and what I've learned the most in my career. I truly believe the saying that it's not what you know, it's who you know. But I don't think it's in the way that people usually use that saying, because you surround yourself with amazing people who are passionate, positive, smart. They will always be able to help you either find a solution or teach you what you don't know. So that has been huge in my whole career, and I'm so happy that I have the connections that I have.
That's great, Alyse. Emily.
Agree. I've spent, my whole career has been, it's all about the connections, especially in this town. And even when you go in advertising, like advertising outside of just Detroit too. So like when I've been working on business in New York or Chicago, it's amazing how many people you can find who are willing and who are out there and ready to help you. Even now in ad sales, right? Like I feel like I know most of people in Detroit after 15 years of being around here, but there's always people who can connect you to other people. And like, for me personally, like I'm getting to the point in my career where like, I want to help others and I want to help people who are starting out. And like, that's just like a passion project of mine. And like, if people reach out to me and ask for help, like I am so willing to help you. So I think really encouraging people to, build those bridges, never set them on fire, but always be building them and reach out to people for help and they will help you.
Before I go to Brian, I just want to mention one thing for everybody that's watching, that's looking for a job. The Adcraft job board is a great spot. And I know we push Adcraft because this is a great organization, but we do have a clearinghouse of jobs there that, and there's a ton right now. So Brian, you're in a unique position because you had to sort of make new connections
Yeah.
to Detroit, right? So, I mean, your story's pretty unique.
Yeah, and probably because of my age as well. I mean, when I was starting out, in college and out of college, there was no social media, there was no email. I didn't even have a computer on my desk for the first 2 years of being in sales. So, I joined the advertising club in college, as I mentioned. As soon as I got started in the business in Atlanta, I joined the AdCraft equivalent there. And then I really like Ron's point earlier about, you go to these events, you're going to know the people that you work with, your close circle, but make sure you make a point to go over and talk to somebody that you don't know. It's a big industry, but it's funny how it can work in small ways. I kind of remember, when I went to college, it was an undergrad with 30,000 students. It didn't take but a month or two to really feel like it actually worked smaller than that, and that you could more quickly network than I've ever imagined that I could. But just again, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, getting used to talking to people that you don't know, going and just really just breaking that ice. It just takes a couple maybe prepped questions that you have in your head, and then the next thing you know, the conversation's flowing, and it's all just very natural. And then you made that point of contact, so next time you see them at an event, unfortunately in our industry, a lot of events are tied to happy hours, and that makes it real easy to get a lot of people to go and to have a good time. But that's so important, is just to really force yourself to step outside your comfort zone and meet as many people as possible.
I think it's one of the funniest things is that as salespeople, we're not really given much credit for being creative, right? We're not the creative side. We don't get awards for coming up with a cool idea that we're taking to a client. But Allie, I'm going to start with you. I know that everybody on this screen is pretty creative, and the creativity now in a sales position is probably very different than what you may have been used to before. So give us an idea of maybe your creative process, how you come up with an idea, and then how do you get that appointment to take it into somebody and show it to them?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. So one of the great things about working at a large company like Viacom CBS is there's so many different teams that you can connect with and work with in terms of integrated marketing, client solutions. If you have some sort of just a spark of an idea, just having a meeting with those teams and being able to kind of explain to them, here, this is what we're thinking, this is what we'd like to take to this client. And from there, they will just take it and run with it. So just being able to kind of plant that first seed, that's really cool to see that process kind of start from there. Like, okay, we came up with that little, that name for that program or that, that sponsorship, whatever it was. So that's kind of how we've been working through that creative process.
That's cool. Alyse, what about you?
Yeah, so for me, it starts with the client meetings, whether I'm with a salesperson, one of my managers, but meeting with the client, understanding their long-term goals, and then kind of backing into the creative idea from there. And kind of like Alyse said, I bring in all the partners. So collaboration is huge, especially when we're talking about coming up with a creative out-of-the-box idea. But if we know the client's goals and we have the best brains in the room, typically we come up with some pretty cool solutions.
Ronnie, any different for you?
Just kind of additive to what these guys are saying. A lot of times, I think media companies like to throw up here's everything we can do. And they forget to say, well, what is the individual who's making the decision? What are they actually trying to do? And sometimes it's not just I need a really smart idea that thinking out of the box, but they need something that is going to motivate, like a Chevrolet ad manager might need to do something that is going to motivate the dealers, but they don't tell us that. But you can dive in and find out. I think Alyse said it's like the collaboration with the clients first to truly understand. And that's how you can get really creative then, when you really understand all the way deep down what the objectives are.
Brian, is that what you've found too?
Well, absolutely. We're in a very competitive business, and part of what we have to do every day is to bring in new business. So the way we approach trying to connect and engage in a new business and acquire their businesses, first we do our homework. We use the multitude of, the internet for one. Research your client as much as possible. Research them. Obviously, LinkedIn is a great way to get to know more about the company, the people at the company, their philosophies, and so on. And then the most important thing is when you go in is just to sit down and listen. They're going to naturally want to talk about their business and about themselves, and then you're going to be able to kind of start to frame that network of connections about what they're talking about, what you've already learned in advance of meeting with them, and then go back and collaborate with your teams. This is what we heard from them. This is their hot point, and what are the portfolio of solutions that we have available. I wholeheartedly agree. You just can't go in with your full media kit and show them all your capabilities, because the message is just going to get lost in the noise. And the more listening you do out of the gate, and the more prep work you do to learn about who you're going to be meeting with, the better. I just find them to be much more higher success rates with that kind of approach.
Emily, anything else that you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would say, like, as in ad sales, right? Like, when I come to a big company like Verizon, like internally to Verizon Media, like, it's my job to be the expert on my client's business, right? So, like, I spend time and I make sure that I know everything that's going on with Rocket Mortgage, and I know everything that's happening with Domino's Pizza and BMW and whoever else I'm the advocate for internally, right? So I follow them on social. I get Google alerts sent every day of like all the things that are happening in their business. I'm reading Ad Age every day, making sure that like I'm up to date on, everything that's happening in the industry, and then specifically to my clients, right? So I can take that information and give that information to the more creative people who sit on my team, right? So my job is kind of be in the middle there to make sure that I'm giving my people internally the best information so they can create the best idea to do exactly what the clients are looking to do. So yeah, definitely listening and just taking in all that information. So I would say anybody who your companies you're interested in, like start following them on Twitter, watch what's happening, like watch what they're doing. And I think that's really going to help you understand like every piece of that business. So,
You know, Emily, you make a huge point, and that is the day-to-day subscription to newsletters and things like that that tell you a little bit about not only our industry, but your client's industry, right? And it's going to be different for all of us because we all have different clients. You mentioned, you know, Domino's, which, hey, the client's here, but the agency's in like what, Colorado, I think, right? So, you know, you may not call on the agency, but you may have a client relationship. So maybe that's a good thing. Let's go around and just tell us, you know, Brian, I'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about what you subscribe to so that you can read it and be aware every day.
Sure. Yeah. You know, all of our industry magazines, it's just like I have to pay attention to both sides of the equations. There's the client side of our business. So AdAge is a great resource for me. But then there's also the engineering and operations aspect of our business. You know, there's a lot of technological advancements that are being made in our industry with regards to targeting, advertising, with next-gen television and so on. So I basically come in the morning, I got my favorite, you know, my website set up in my favorites. I kind of peruse the top level articles in each. And then I kind of wind down my day, you know, after dinner, I'll jump on LinkedIn for about an hour and I'll just scroll through there. And I've got a good network set up of people on both sides of the industry. And I'll just kind of read about and try to get brushed up on, you know, where, you know, different companies and different people are heading to make sure that, you know, I take that back to my team and I disseminate the important top level points from that.
Oh, that's great. Alyse, what are you subscribing to these days?
AdAge, eMarketer, and then one of the tools that we use for prospecting and knowledge is called Winmo. So they have their like daily like newsletters. You can kind of program particular clients that you have or agencies with what's going on with them. So that's one thing. It's just like a quick like one stop like of what's what with those particular clients organizations that you have flagged.
Alyse.
eMarketer, AdAge, we have spots and dots too that we follow that. Auto news is a big one for me because the automotive category is pretty
Sure.
So that's always important. And then I forgot what it's called, but it's a coaching resource that's automated.
Oh,
A sales leader, that's very helpful.
I love that. I love that. Emily, what are you watching these days?
I mean, I'm a big fan. I have like I'm a big fan of Twitter. I get a lot of news there. So I have mine. It took me a long time to cultivate it to be useful as opposed to just a lot of everything, but just following like the right, like automotive is obviously big in Detroit. So following like specific automotive journalists and specifically following people who are interested in the same clients that I'm interested in. My Google alerts are huge. That's like it comes at 7 a.m. in my inbox every morning and I read that just to kind of see what's happening. I have it set up for my clients, Rocket, Domino's, BMW, things that are happening with those specific clients. It's a good way to kind of keep tabs on that business. I read like awesome QSR magazines. I'm really missing my old school automotive news printout that's probably still coming to my office, unclear. I've been missing that one because I used to take it on the airplanes with me, right? Like I would just open it up and that would be like my light reading on the way to LaGuardia. But yeah, again, AdAge, AdWeek, all of those too, just to kind of keep up with the trends. Because you know, if there's one, this industry just changes constantly, so you got to keep up with all of it.
Yeah, yes, it does. Ron Ball.
You know, I too like the AdAge automotive news. I've also gotten on the list for like Cox Automotive does a weekly update that you can get. Very nice for the automotive business. Like Emily, I'm not as good with the Google alerts. I need to work on that. But I do follow all of my clients on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter to see what they are posting, what's important for them, and see if it it matches up. Like sometimes you can see a preview of what they're going to be working on in 6 months, which is good. There's something called Seller Crowd. I don't know if anybody participates. That's another good one that you can find out the chat. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Don't tell the clients about that.
Oh, yeah, right. But you know, there are other things like Scott Galloway is a professor. I think it's in New York. Actually, he's all over the place. But on technology and what's going on with the business, and it's a little bit further down the road, and I like to keep up to date on that to see what's coming next. So I'm kind of all over the place.
That's great. So we're gonna probably start taking some questions. So if you have a question, just put it in the Q&A. We are not using the chat function today, just the Q&A. And let's see if we have the first question is, and it's one of those regular ones we get all the time. Hey, what's the best part of your job? I'll start with Brian.
Yeah, so I would say it's the people that I work with. And it's so much different now that we're, nearly 10 months, 11 months removed from being in the office. I mean, so our facility right now, about 90% of our people have been full on working from home immediately starting in mid-March of last year. So it's a lot different. So it's not quite the same experience, but it was about the people that I work with, sharing in the experience of a challenging workplace, winning. Like, as I mentioned before, you know, it's a very competitive industry and it's constantly changing. And, you know, and winning is defined by a metric of success. And then, you know, we set that goal, we understand what success looks like, and then working towards it. And we don't always achieve it, but more often than not, we do. And so I really enjoy that aspect of it. And then lastly, just, and what I miss most because of the current work environment, but I know we'll be back to it soon, is pressing the flesh with clients, is getting out there, sitting across the desk or sitting across the table at a restaurant, and really engaging with people and learning about them and their business, and how I can, you know, provide them with solutions to their objectives, their marketing objectives.
Well, you're so right, Brian. You know, the stuff that we used to hear in person that you would never hear on email or even in a group, you know, the one-on-ones. Just a quick story. I remember being on the golf course back when we used to golf, right? And I was with a client, and I'm not going to say who it was, but they were talking about 0% financing, and they were deciding right then in the golf cart whether or not they were going to do that. And asked me, "What do you think?" I said, "It's great. I need a car. If I get 0% financing, I'll go tomorrow." He goes, "Let's do it." So I'm not sure if I had an influence on it.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so Emily, how about you?
Gosh, I think Brian covered it so well. I don't know what else. I mean, I just, the people are the best part. It really, like, I know it sounds played out and that's exactly what he said, but like, I miss like the energy of being in the office with my coworkers. I miss walking into GTB or an UM and like being able to sit and collaborate like in person with my clients and my agency partners. Like the people part to me is just like the most powerful. And I think what I'm probably missing the most, but.
Yeah, I think that's the same for all of us. So let's go to another question. I've got one from Shri from Oakland University. What is a non-traditional strength that you bring to the table that has helped you grow in this space? And I'll just throw it out to the group. Who wants to jump in?
Yeah, I'll give a shot. And this is something we talked a little bit about, this putting yourself out there and going outside of your comfort level. And if you've been calling on the autos in Detroit, there's probably a fairly good chance that you've gone to a auto show press preview day. And a lot of times you learn a lot of information by the presentations, but the thing that can really set that experience apart is going outside of your comfort level and working the auto show where you're actually going up to clients, including CEOs and CMOs, and introducing yourself and asking them some pointed questions. Now, a lot of media people might not do that because they've already gotten a lot of information, but I can tell you by doing that, your experience is different. And that is honestly how I have built relationships with C-level clients, by going like outside of my own comfort level. And I'd say, you know, a lot of the other things where in order to, you have to be a smart marketer, I think, to be a good media salesperson. You have to be detail oriented. You have to be the best collaborator because you're collaborating with clients and you're collaborating internally. You know, those are like, you just have to do it. But if you can really put yourself out there, you become next level.
That's cool.
I would say something that really has helped me as like, I'm just a natural, like an empathetic person, right? So trying to understand where everybody is coming from on the different sides of the equation, right? And looking at it from that perspective, like the agency is trying to make the client happy, right? Like the internal people are trying to make money on their program. And I think when you kind of take a step back and look at it from like what everyone's trying to achieve, that's really helped me be able to be, like Ron said, a great collaborator and help everybody win.
Allie, I saw you were going to lean in there for a second.
You know, I'm just kind of thinking about adding on to that. So one of the things, like I mentioned, I spent, 5 years at the agency before I went to media sales. And so having that agency background, I probably have the most recent agency background out of everybody, at least in the sales organization in our office. So being able to sort of communicate to other internal teams that are maybe not totally aligned with what the client is trying to do, I can kind of be like, this is why they're asking these questions. This is why they want it this way, such and such, So having that sort of little bit of agency brain that I can kind of turn on from those years I spent there, that's been very, very helpful.
That is a huge point, because I never worked in an agency, right? So I was in sales right from the start. And I've definitely tried to surround myself with agency people so that I can go, what do you think of this? They're going to go, yeah, about half of that is going to be okay. I'd throw the other half out because they don't even care, right? So that's a huge point, Allie. That, and for your background, and maybe even for those that are watching, our thing today, maybe it is smart to maybe start at an agency or start in something like that before you get into sales, so you get that background. But I can tell you can still make it without being at the agency. So anyone else want to lean in? Alyse, I saw you thinking of something there.
Yeah, one thing that didn't get mentioned, I feel like that is pretty important, is the ability to analyze data, which I think historic importance in sales, but it's so important right now in the current environment to be able to see the categories that are doing well that we can actually help with an advertising campaign is important. And the faster we are able to do that, the faster we can find them and help them.
That's a huge point, because we work with a lot of research folks on the various companies that we represent, and we'll get like a dump of data, and my call back to them immediately is, what's the story? Tell me what it says. I mean, I can kind of think and guess, but what's the story here? What's the trend? What's the, you sent me a snapshot. I need the movie, right? So anyway, that's huge. So anything else on this? I think we beat it to death a little bit here. So I've got another question here from Alexis Morris from Western Michigan University. Go Broncos. I sent a lot of money there for my kids. So this question is to the transplants. So Ron, Brian, here you go. For those of you who are transplanted, can you speak more to the intricacies of your decision and networking with no established connections? So they want you to go drill down a little deeper. What do you think? Ron, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm not going to lie. It was a little bit harder. And even coming in right out of college, I did not have any reference of the Detroit advertising community at all. And I did not have any built-in relationships from college here in the city and stuff like that. And so it really meant I had to throw myself in to the business, and I had to be open to learning and participating and volunteering in order to build my own base. And I think if you're open to do that, and a lot of times, you know what, honestly, your work can help you take you there too. You know, especially if you're, and I did not fall in this case of being really good at my job. No, joking. But, you know, if you are, that could expand. And the other thing which helps in this business is whether we like it or not, people move around a lot. And you might not be somebody who moves around. And so everybody else is rotating in through your agency or through your organization. And then you move, and then you see the same thing happen in the new organization. And so that in itself helps, but you really have to be committed, because there are people who have come in from outside of the bubble, if you will, of Southeastern Michigan. And they're like, boy, I don't know anybody here. It's like, well, have you been to an event? Have you volunteered? You know, so I don't know, Brian, you might have a different perspective.
Well, I mean, yeah, I remember how tough it was when I got here. You know, Detroit is a very well-connected and, you know, people have been here a long time, well-established. And so, you know, it's hard. It was hard initially as an outsider, you know, kind of coming in. Yes, I jumped on, obviously, you know, I moved within the same company to come up here. So I was able to be on the back of some of our employees that were from Detroit here, and obviously get involved and engaged in that way. You know, just expect that it's going to take time. You have to jump in full in. I think, Ron, is what you said there, and that's right. You know, it's not just a 9-to-5 thing, and it's going to be after hours, and expect that you're going to have to put in double the effort. But just be patient. You know, it's funny how that one connection becomes 3, and each one of those 3 becomes 3 more. You know, and so you know, be patient. Over time, it'll start to work itself out. And then you know, what I loved about it. It wasn't just the events themselves that you could go and social network in. There was actually, like, through Adcraft and other non-affiliated organizations, there was like ongoing events like softball leagues and billiard leagues and golf leagues, and so like these reoccurring maybe weekly or monthly events that you could go to. And then this week I'm going to be with these 5 people. Next week and that was awesome. So it's things that I'm genuinely interested in. I'm getting to do something fun that I like, but also just naturally creating my expanding my network.
That's huge. Any of you non-transplants have a comment on that?
Kind of a transplant. So I started my career in Detroit, and then I went to DC to run their auto team
Wow.
a year. So that was a great experience for me because it was very challenging, and you don't realize the benefits from knowing the area until you don't know the area.
Yeah.
I will say that, especially in our industry, because all we talk about is target segmentations, and you need to know the area. So that was one thing I learned. But another thing I learned too is by going into another market, you see scope and you see things that can be done in multiple markets that people are like, oh no, there's no way that will work here. Oh no, it will, and it can. So you can share things. So my recommendation to anybody is, if you can have experience outside a market, even if you want to come back, do it, because you will learn so much and it'll be worth it.
I'm just going to throw in that when you're a salesperson in Detroit, a lot of times you're calling on other parts of the country, right, Emily?
Sure.
And Allie and Alyse. So what'll happen is and I just have one funny story about Chicago. So, you know, here's our Detroit guy covering the Midwest. So I go to Chicago to make some calls, and kind of like how we are here with people coming from Chicago to Detroit. It's like, yeah, you got to have an office here. We're not going to buy from you, that kind of stuff, right? And then I found out that, you know, at the last turn down, there was of business, there was an exodus to Chicago of a bunch of people from Detroit. So there was actually a group of transplants in Chicago that had started their own Detroit club. Oh my God. You know, and you would have never found that out unless you accidentally, or maybe on purpose, somebody told you. But, you know, and then the next thing you know is you're part of the club. And they're calling you going, hey, when are you going to be in town next? Because we're going to meet at this bar and have a, you know, and at the end of the day, you look for those little things like that help you, I guess, increase your visibility or give you a little more access. And I can tell you, it led to business, right? So very, very, very cool stuff. So we've only got a few minutes left. So I guess what I'd like to do is have, if there's something that you wanted to touch on, some part of your career that you thought was important for these folks to know. I've got one and I'll finish up with it, but go ahead. Who wants to go first? Alyse, you got something you want to throw out there?
Maybe somebody else go first for this question.
Emily,
I'll
go.
Like, for you younger people out there, I think like one piece of advice or one thing I've seen work really well when we've had new people coming into like our organization or interns or something is just always know that you have like a really unique perspective. Like, you guys use social media differently than some people like me use. You guys are dealing and seeing things in a different light than some of us older people. So I've had like some of our younger folks who have come in and you know, provided like awesome like weekly POVs of like different things that like we wouldn't know about, right? Like, here's what's happening on TikTok, or like this is what Clubhouse is, or all of these different things that like people who have been in the industry for a long time just don't necessarily know about. So just always know that you guys have like all of this information that we don't have, and like be willing to like bring it to us and share it with us, because we want to learn. We're just a little old. So like, just, I think that could be a really good, thing to bring to a potential company, or even like in an interview. Like, that is something you can bring. You have the knowledge and it's easy for you to share it. So just, you know, kind of think about the ways and the things that you're an expert in and how you can bring it to us, because we love to learn. So
Ron Bowe leaning in, I see that. Or Brian, go ahead, Brian.
Either way, yeah, absolutely, Emily. It's all about, you know, I've been around long enough, you know, before, you know, our industry, and probably most industries have changed, which they needed to, is that, you know, but 10 years ago, 15 years ago, is it about indoctrinating the new hires, right? Okay, we're going to teach you, here's the training program. We're going to teach you how we do things. Here, we're going to, you know, teach you the culture. That's not the way it is anymore. You know, we're all about with new hires is we want to download from them. And no matter what your level of experience is, whether you've got multi-years under your belt or you're just graduating from college, you have something to provide, and something that will, you know, most likely be that we would be looking for. So be confident in what you bring to the table and how it might fit in, and don't be shy to bring it up. Because now we have definitely shifted from teaching you the culture to, no, what do you bring to the table? We want to download from you, your experience and input. And then lastly, I would just say, this is an old school thing that still should be happening more, and I'm surprised that it doesn't, is as much as we can connect with social media and engage and so on, if you have an interview, follow up. And I still like the letter. I still like the note, you know, the handwritten thing. It works. It just makes you stand out. And like I said, you know, oftentimes when we hire somebody, you know, we may have 3 or 4 equally qualified candidates. That's usually the tipping point that we go with one particular person versus another, because they went that extra mile and hand wrote a note and put it in the mail or what have you, dropped it off. So
important. So important. Ronnie Bowe.
You know, I wanted to just touch on, you see a variety of people from different kind of media companies, and there are entry-level positions at all of these different companies. You could be an account planner, account manager, you could be in traffic, you could be a marketing coordinator. you could go the agency route and then make your way to media sales. You could be in the media department at an agency, or you could be an account group at an agency. And all of those contribute to what your next step can be. So keep your eyes open to those opportunities. And if you see something that interests you, jump on it. And find somebody at that company through LinkedIn who you're connected to 2 or 3 ways down the road, or reach out, because those jobs are they are critical to what we do. And so you're going to get experience doing that. That is certainly going to help you into your next steps.
That's huge. Alyse?
Yeah, so I'll piggyback off that. I couldn't agree more. And even I'll use my own career as an example. The entry level position, you learn so much in that position that takes you to the next position. So I started in an entry level sales position, and I learned the bad, the good, the ugly, and how to find solutions. And from there, I moved up to another position. And because I've been in so many positions with one organization, not in multiple, but I think it can work either way, being the director of sales, I can jump in and help someone at any level. And not just the tactical, but also like understand what they're dealing with and why, and truly find solutions, which is so important right now with an ever-changing industry. So just know, even if you're starting in an entry-level position, think 5 years down the road and think about what you're learning today and how that can impact 5 years from now.
Nice. Allie?
Total. Oh, sorry. Can I just say one thing? Like, you're going to start
Emily.
off like not doing the most amazing work sometimes. I don't know if you can all, like, just piggybacking on what you were just saying.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I was like filling out documents from like county coverage books, trying to figure out like how to plan radio in 2003. Like, guys, I promise it gets better, but like, you got to kind of pay your dues. You have to learn the business from the bottom and understand. And like, those connections that you make are just going to help you. And like, that stuff that you're learning, while it seems like maybe grunt work or not ideal, like, just know that you're like paving the way for a successful career. So hang in there, guys.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Allie?
If it hasn't been said yet already today in other panels, like, this is a fun business that we work in. This is a fun industry to be in. One of the great things about sales is something called client entertainment. So things like, I take, girls, or sometimes guys, to go get manicures and pedicures at lunchtime, to go get massages, to go to concerts, so many fun things present themselves to you in this business. So I would say, get ready, get excited.
Exactly. So we're going to wind down the session, but I just wanted to, I want to give you guys, I mean, we could have wrote a book about everything we said today, and maybe we should all collaborate on that. At least we're going to do collaboration, I think. But I'm going to throw out one line that I've used throughout my entire career, and this kind of goes to Ron Bow walking into a room, right? And not knowing anybody there. And I can tell you, this just happened about 2 years ago was the last time I used it in a big room where I knew absolutely nobody. It was in New York. I was at a food and wine something or other. And we were there for something else, but they invited us. So we went to the thing. And here's the line. You just walk up to somebody and you say, how do you fit into all this? And shut up, because they will tell you, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to get good information. Sometimes you're going to get information that doesn't really work. But if you look interested, it may work around to something you can use. And oh my God, it's been great. It's been great for us. So just to recap, don't burn any bridges, right? Don't ruin your own personal brand, right? And then network. I think you heard a string of this through everything that we've all talked about. And then again, go to that sheet that everybody got and link in with all of us. We all want to help you. Tell us how, in the little note, when you link in with us, tell us how you found us, right? From today's panel or just the panels in general. And then, we can't wait to see you in the biz. So next up is going to be HR with a little bit of diversity, equity, inclusion included in that, and then media planning. So thanks for being in our seminar today. And we'll look for you on the streets of Detroit. Buddy, see ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
I think we had fun today too.